tired of starting over, tired of hearing no. But let me tell you something powerful. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. Every great person you admire, they weren't born strong. They got knocked down, rejected, laughed at, ignored. They heard you're not good enough more times than they could count, but they kept showing up, kept pushing forward, kept trying, even when no one was watching, even when the pain was heavy, even when progress was invisible. You see, success doesn't belong to the talented. It doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the ones who refuse to quit, the ones who try, fail, learn, and come back stronger. Every time you fall and stand back up, you're growing. You're evolving. You're building something no one can take away from you. Resilience, grit, fire. It's not about how many times you get it right. It's about how many times you're willing to stand back up when it all goes wrong. There's strength in persistence, power in patience, and victory in endurance. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep trying. Even if you're moving slowly, even if no one claps for you, even if the road is lonely, just don't stop. Let the world doubt you. Let the pain test you. Let the setbacks build you, but never let them break you. Because the moment you decide to keep trying, you've already won. So rise, push forward, one more time. Keep trying. Your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your persistence. Working on yourself, watching that inner dialogue, it will determine the quality of your life, because you are creating your own production. You are the star of your show. You are the director. You are writing the script. And you will determine whether your life is a smash box office hit or a flop. You begin to realize that your dream and your gifts have so much meaning, so much value for you. Your hunger for them will begin to push you past the fear. Your hunger to have them will give you a special drive. You want to become a risk-taker. You want to raise the bar on yourself. Most people won't do that. Most people are going to think you're weird. They're going to think you're crazy. People are going to think you're crazy. Get away from people in your life who are hating. Get away from your family members that ain't ever opened a business. Get away from your family members that ain't ever followed their dream. Get away from them. Don't expect people to understand you. Don't expect it to make sense to anybody why you've got to do this. There are some people who won't like you. Who do you think you are? You're arrogant. You think you can do that? You think you can get away with that? I'm fighting with folks who not even fighting, but they got something to say about how we fight. You're not even fighting. You ain't doing nothing. And for those of us who get up and go out, you got something to say about how we do what we do. Stop talking to us who are performing. Stop critiquing us. Stop telling us what to do and how to do it. Build the kind of life that says, I told you so, without having to say a fucking word. Every fucking negative comment should trigger you into productive action. Every time somebody says something to you, you should go do whatever it is that is going to make them have to eat their words. Right then, right now, I've had my haters. I've had people who've come against me, who tried to sabotage me. I'm like the lion. I'm not the gazelle. I don't need something external to motivate me. I find something within. That's what lions do. Lions don't cry. Lions don't give up. Lions don't quit. Lions hunt. That's what we do for a living. I must be the greatest, not because I'm cocky, but I gotta tell myself I'm the best. If I'm gonna be the best, I gotta believe in me before anybody else believes in me. Arise, get your butt up. You don't belong at the bottom, and it's time for you to get your butt from down there. It's time for you to stop being comfortable at the bottom. Get your butt up and get to where you're supposed to be. This ain't time to be whining. This ain't time to be crying. This is time to get focused. Once you start questioning yourself, you've already lost. Once you start going into a state of depression and start being by yourself and you start wondering. Once you start wondering, you already lost. Even if you don't believe, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your product. You have to believe in your service. And you have to sell you every day. The biggest sale I make every day is that, Les Brown, you can do this. I can beat this. If other people can do it, then it's possible that I can do it. You're going to break records. You're going to do some things when you challenge yourself, when you work on yourself, because you don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. If you want to improve your income, you want to improve your circumstances, you want to improve your life, you got to first improve yourself. Spend more time on yourself than what you've been spending, working on yourself, talking to yourself, overcoming the negative conversation, that inner dialogue that's going on all the time, all the time. It's very important. You owe that to yourself, learning how to empower yourself. You've got to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to stand up inside yourself. There is no testimony without a trial. It is supposed to be hard. That rough process is necessary. It's what makes you who you are. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be versatile. And you've got to be adaptable. You've got to deal with circumstances, and such as you find them. Why? Because a lot of stuff is going to be thrown at you. Many times you're not going to have time to prepare. Sometimes people will come out of nowhere with stuff, and you've got to stand up inside of yourself and handle it. You've got to trust that you're going to be all right. You have no evidence to support it. It doesn't make sense. You can't point to anything and say, well, this is why. There's no logic in it. There's no way you can logically, practically, realistically support it and prove it. That's why you got to have faith, and you got to have trust somehow, some way. You've got to have that you're going to come through. What is it that will make it worth it for you to face the rejections when you want to give up and things are working against you? What is it that will make it worth it for you to brainstorm, to not be intimidated, to say, I can do this? What is it that will make it worth it for you to raise the bar on yourself and say, I got some more stuff in me? What is it that will help you get back up again? You better go inside. You're still looking outside for the stuff that's already inside. You're still looking for someone to save you. When you're already your superhero, you're looking for information from somebody. When you already got what you need in your head, it's just time for you to get up and be the best version of you. When you get your butt knocked out, the only way you can get back up is from the inside out. I got what it takes. I got average skill, but I got phenomenal will. I have the ability to do it. I will. I have the willpower to make it happen. I must. Somebody's counting on me. You know what I hear? I hear the clock ticking and time waits from no man. Life goes by, and it goes by quick. Don't waste those years. Don't waste them, live them. I want you to be terrified of sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing, waking up in 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 years or 60 years and being no closer to your goal. You've made no progress. That is the nightmare. That is what you really need to be afraid of, being stagnant. So get up and go. That idea isn't going to execute itself. That book isn't going to write itself. Those weights out in the gym, they aren't going to move themselves. You have to do it, and you have to do it now. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Don't make any more excuses or justifications. Don't rationalize anything else. No, take the risk. Take the gamble, take the first step, take action now. No complacency, no backing off, no slack whatsoever. No more dreaming. Dreaming is over. I need specifics. What? are you doing on Monday? What are you doing on Tuesday? What are you doing on Wednesday? You need to be very specific. It's time to put your pieces together of your puzzle. You need to be in a big damn hurry. Time is running out on you. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. The separator between me and you and people that win and lose is what we do with those seconds. And you're too slow, you're too casual, you think too much. You need to get in a hurry because there's an end of your life and it's coming. Sooner than you think. It goes by in a flicker, and at some point it's going to be over. And we want to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to start living life with a sense of urgency and using what we've got, using ourselves up, sharing what we brought into the universe to share. Because if we don't, nobody else will stop wasting valuable time. If we begin to live our lives as if each day where our lives will take on a whole new meaning when you die, when life is over for you. I don't want you to have one idea left in you. I don't want one dream left in you when you die. I want you to go for broke. Every seed that you were supposed to do, every book you were supposed to write, I want you to get everything out, your system. We get one shot at this gig right here, life, so do not wait, go forward, no more waiting for the perfect moment, and no more indecision and no more lies. Take the action, get out of bed, get your feet on the ground, step forward, give every day everything. You've got every ounce of energy, every bead of sweat, every drop of blood until your last breath, and don't let another day slip by you. He waited his whole life for one sentence from his father. Ever since he was a boy, Ethan chased approval. Every grade, every award, he'd rush home waiting to see a smile, or maybe hear, "I'm proud of you, son." But his father, a man of few words, only nodded or said, "Keep going." No hugs, no warmth, just silence wrapped in discipline. Ethan grew up with quiet doubts. Am I enough? Years passed, he became successful. He had a family of his own now. Still, something felt missing. One evening his dad visited, saw Ethan's little boy, run up laughing, saw Ethan kneel, hug him tight and whisper, "I'm proud of you, buddy." His father turned away, his eyes misted, and softly said, "I never said it enough, but I'm proud of you too." That moment broke something in Ethan, not in pain, but in relief. Sometimes healing comes late, but it still heals. Even the hardest hearts soften when love speaks at last. They hadn't spoken in years, until one moment changed everything. Daniel hadn't seen his father in almost 6 years. Their last words were during a fight, harsh, cold, final. His dad had said, "If you walk out, don't come back." And he didn't. Years passed. Daniel became a father himself, but something always felt incomplete. Then one night, after putting his own son to bed, he looked at the tiny hand wrapped around his finger and broke down. He picked up the phone and called. His father answered after 2 rings. Silence. Then, "Hey, it's been a while." A week later they met at the old park. No long speech, no anger, just a long, tight hug. Years of silence melted away in that embrace. They cried, not out of pain, but for all the time they had lost. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. Healing begins with one brave step, even if it's just a call. He thought his dad didn't care, until he opened his wallet. Ryan always felt distant from his father. They barely spoke. His dad worked long hours, came home late, and said little. Ryan assumed he's just cold, doesn't care. Years passed. Ryan left for college. Their calls were short, rare. He didn't visit much. Then one day, the call came. His father had passed away from a silent heart condition. Ryan returned home to handle his belongings. Quietly, he opened his father's worn-out wallet. Inside it, behind old receipts and ID cards, was a folded, faded photo, Ryan's high school picture. On the back, in messy handwriting, "My reason to keep going." Ryan dropped to his knees. He had no idea. All this time, his father had carried his face, his memory, his pride, in his pocket. Sometimes love is silent, but always there. He ignored his father's calls for weeks until one message shattered him. Jacob was busy. College, part-time job, friends, everything moved fast. His dad called often, left voicemails like, "Just checking in, son. Proud of you." But Jacob rarely picked up. He'd think, "I'll call later." Later never came. One night after a party, Jacob saw a missed call again. "Dad." Another voicemail. This time his dad's voice was slower, softer. "Hey, buddy. Don't worry, I just wanted to hear your voice. I know you're busy, just take care of yourself, okay?" Something about it felt different. Jacob paused. His gut sank. He called back. No answer. He called again. Still nothing. The next morning his uncle called. His father had passed away in his sleep. Jacob sat alone in silence, replaying the voicemail over and over, wishing he had answered, wishing he had said, "I love you," one last time. Don't wait until it's too late to answer the ones who love you most. He thought hiding his failure would protect his father, but it broke him instead. Every year, David's dad asked the same thing. "Just give your best. That's all I ask." But this time, David didn't. He skipped classes, hung with the wrong crowd, failed 2 subjects. When the report card came, shame flooded him. He couldn't bear to show it. He slipped it into his backpack and lied. His father smiled proudly that night, cooked his favorite meal, and said, "I know you'll do great things." David felt the weight of every word. That night, he couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, imagining the disappointment in his father's eyes. The next morning, with trembling hands, he placed the report card on the kitchen table. Then he sat and waited. His father came in, picked it up quietly. No yelling, no anger, just a hug. And this. "Now let's figure this out together." A real father doesn't expect perfection, just honesty and effort. He never understood his father's struggle until he walked a mile in his boots. Jake always rolled his eyes when his dad said, "Someday you'll understand." To him, his father's life was simple. Work boots, early mornings, and dirty hands. Jake wanted more. Designer shoes, office jobs, city life. He promised himself he'd never end up like that. One summer, his father got injured and couldn't work. Bills piled up, groceries ran low. Jake stepped in just for a week. He laced up his dad's old work boots. The factory was loud. The shifts were long. His hands blistered. His back ached. On day 3, he cried in the bathroom, but every night he saw his father's photo next to his mum's medicine bottle and remembered who this job had kept alive. On payday, Jake didn't spend a dime on himself. He placed the cash in his father's drawer, then quietly whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for everything." Sometimes, to truly respect someone, you have to walk in their pain. He thought his dad was just a janitor until he opened that lunchbox. Noah always felt a little embarrassed. While other kids' dads wore suits, his wore overalls. Every afternoon, Mr. Walker would drop by Noah's school, mop in hand, sweat on his brow, and a metal lunchbox in the other. Noah would look away, pretending he didn't notice. He never told anyone his father worked there. One day, while cleaning out his locker, Noah accidentally grabbed his dad's lunchbox instead of his own. Out of curiosity, he opened it. Inside wasn't just food. There was a crumpled photo of Noah winning a science fair. A note, "One more shift today, all worth it if he smiles." Underneath, a bank envelope marked, "Noah's college fund." Noah froze. That day, he ran to the janitor's closet. He hugged his dad with tears in his eyes and said, "You're my biggest hero." Never be ashamed of who raised you. Their love built your future. One mistake almost ruined him until his father did the unthinkable. Liam had always been the quiet one, smart, disciplined, and respectful. But one bad decision in college changed everything. Wrong friends, wrong place, wrong time. He was caught shoplifting, pressured by a group of guys he barely knew. The police called his father. At 2 a.m., Mr. Harris showed up. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just looked Liam in the eyes and said, "We're leaving. You're better than this." Back home, Liam waited for the lecture. Instead, his father handed him a shovel. "What's this?" Liam asked. "You're going to fix the garden you once loved. Every weed, every rock. Start over, just like your life." Day after day, Liam worked. No phones, no distractions. And one day, he found himself again. That summer, he didn't just fix the soil, he rebuilt his soul, all because his father chose love over punishment. A father's silence can be louder than anger and stronger than judgment. His son never knew what his father gave up until years later. Ethan grew up in a poor home, but he was ambitious. When he got selected for his first corporate interview, he was overjoyed until he looked at his wardrobe. Nothing fit, nothing looked right. He sighed. Maybe next time. His father, a quiet carpenter, heard him. The next morning, Ethan found a brand new suit hanging on the door. Perfect size, perfect style. He hugged his dad and asked, "How'd you afford this?" His father smiled and said, "Just used some savings." Years later, after his father passed, Ethan was going through the old workshop. He noticed something strange. The toolbox, the same one his dad had used every day, was missing. A neighbor told him, "Your dad sold all his tools that week, said it was for something important." Ethan broke down, realizing his father gave up the very tools that fed them to help him chase a future. Fathers build dreams they may never live to see. He thought his father never understood him until he found the letters. Logan always believed his father never supported his dream of becoming a writer. His dad, a factory worker, often said, "You need a real job, son." So Logan left, home with bitterness in his heart. Years passed, rejections, struggles, silence. When his father passed, Logan returned home only out of duty. While cleaning the attic, he opened an old wooden box. Inside were dozens of unopened letters, all addressed to him. Each one was written in his father's handwriting. The first letter read, "Son, I may not understand your dream, but I believe in you. Every day, always." Tears filled Logan's eyes as he read letter after letter. Love, pride, hope, all hidden behind silence. He wept, realizing his father hadn't failed to support him. He just didn't know how to show it. Some love is silent until it's read. He never knew that dinner would be their last one together. Ryan had been too busy for his father lately. Meetings, deadlines, and constant travel filled his schedule. His father, now retired and living alone, would call just to ask, "Dinner? Sometime soon," Ryan would always respond. "Soon, Dad, I promise." One weekend, Ryan finally agreed. They sat at their favorite diner, the same one they went to when Ryan was a kid. His dad was slower now, quieter, but his eyes were full of joy. They laughed, shared stories, and his father paid, just like he always did. As they hugged goodbye, his father said, "That was perfect, son. Just perfect." 3 days later, Ryan got the call. His father had passed peacefully in his sleep. That dinner was their last, but it became the memory he cherished the most. Don't wait. One day, a later becomes never. His father's hands were always rough, but they built more than a home. Ethan grew up in a house his father built. Literally. Every brick, every nail, every inch of paint was touched by his father's tired hands. A construction worker by day and a handyman by night, Mr. Blake never took a vacation. Ethan wanted more, to move to the city, chase success, never look back. He hated the dirt, the tools, the smell of cement. One evening, packing for college, Ethan noticed his father sitting on the porch. staring at his calloused hands in silence. "Are you okay, Dad?" Ethan asked. His father smiled faintly. "These hands couldn't give you luxury, but they gave you the ground to stand on." Years later, Ethan stood on a stage, receiving an award for his first architectural design. He looked down at his own clean hands and whispered, "It all began with yours, Dad." Some dreams are built by hands that never touch them. Every day his father carried the same suitcase, but no one knew what was inside. Daniel's father, Mr. Harris, worked as a janitor at the same train station for 25 years. Every morning, without fail, he carried a small brown suitcase. People joked about it. Some even teased him. Daniel, a teenager back then, always asked, "Dad, what's in the suitcase?" His father would just smile and say, "Something that matters." Daniel felt embarrassed. His friends' dads were engineers, businessmen. His was mopping floors, quiet, invisible. On graduation day, Daniel gave a speech as valedictorian. His father stood in the back, still in uniform, holding that old suitcase. After the ceremony, his dad handed it to him. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside were every one of Daniel's report cards, childhood drawings, medals, even rejection letters. All carefully saved. At the bottom was a note. "Everything I carried was for you to fly. This was my dream, watching you become yours." Daniel wept, holding the suitcase tight. He realized the weight of a father's love isn't always measured in words, but in the quiet things he carries alone. Some fathers don't say much, but they carry everything. His son never noticed until one rainy night. James grew up thinking his father just didn't care about style. Same shoes, same jacket, every year. At school, James had fresh sneakers every semester, always the best. One rainy evening, James came home early from practice and saw his dad drying his shoes with newspaper. They were torn. The sole was half detached. James froze. His father looked up and smiled. They still do the job. That night, James realized those old shoes carried every sacrifice his dad ever made, just to keep James walking proud. Some fathers wear struggle-like shoes, so their kids never walk in pain. He waited 20 years for this car, but gave it up in a second. Tom worked overtime for 2 decades, saving for his dream, a vintage red Mustang. He finally bought it when he turned 50. It was spotless, polished, his pride. But a month later, his son got accepted into a top art school, and they couldn't afford the tuition. Without saying a word, Tom sold the car the next morning. When his son found out, he broke down. Tom smiled and said, "Dreams are meant to be driven, just not always by us." That Mustang was his dream, but his son's future was the road he'd rather see shine. The greatest dreams we fuel are not always our own. He found a letter that changed everything, years after his father died. Daniel grew up thinking his father never believed in him. No praise, no hugs, just silence and rules. When his father passed, he felt free, but empty. Years later, while cleaning the attic, Daniel found a sealed envelope inside an old toolbox. It was addressed to him. Inside was a letter. His father had written it after Daniel's first failed exam. It said, "I know you'll rise, you always do. I just didn't know how to say it." Attached was a childhood drawing of Daniel, wearing a crown. That day, Daniel cried harder than ever before, because sometimes love is silent, but never absent. Some fathers don't say it, but they feel it more than words ever could. He wore those shoes with pride, but never knew the cost behind them. Jacob always wanted a pair of limited edition sneakers. Everyone at school had them, except him. He never asked, because he knew his dad worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. One morning he woke up to find the sneakers on his bed, brand new, his size. He ran to his dad with excitement, but found him quietly packing his old boots for work. His father had sold his watch, the only gift his late wife ever gave him, just to buy those shoes. Years later, Jacob still keeps those shoes in a glass box, not because they were expensive, but because of what they cost. Behind every gift from a parent is a sacrifice you may never see. He missed the biggest day of his life for the man who gave him everything. Liam was graduating top of his class, scholarships, honors, proud teachers. But when the day arrived, he didn't show up at the ceremony. While others took the stage, Liam was at a small mechanic shop, wearing oil-stained clothes beside his father. His dad had fallen sick the night before, too weak to open the shop, too proud to ask for help. Liam made the choice instantly, because when he was 6, his dad missed a surgery just to attend his school play. Now, it was Liam's turn to show up. Later that evening, he gave his dad the diploma and whispered, "This is yours too. Success means nothing if you forget who helped you get there." He stood outside his son's office every single day. Mark's father used to walk him to school, holding his hand every morning. As Mark grew older and got a job, he moved to the city and rarely visited. But his father missed him deeply. So every evening he took the bus and stood quietly across the street from Mark's office, just to catch a glimpse of him. He never said a word, didn't want to bother him, just watched from a distance, smiling, proud. One evening, Mark's colleague asked, "Isn't that your dad who waits outside sometimes?" Mark froze. By the time Mark rushed out, his father was gone, and that was the last day he ever came. Don't make your parents wait too long. One day they won't be there. He ignored his father's last call, and it haunts him every day. Ryan was too busy, chasing deadlines, friends, success. One night, his father called. He saw the phone ring and let it go. Dad always calls. "I'll call back later," he thought, but there was no later. That night, his father passed in his sleep, no warning, no goodbye. Ryan found a voice message the next morning. "Just wanted to say I'm proud of you, son. Always have been." He dropped to the floor, phone shaking in his hand. The man he ignored was the man who loved him most. Since that day, Ryan listens to that message every birthday, because it's all he has left. Don't wait. Say what matters while you still can. He was ashamed of his dad until the truth shattered everything he thought he knew. Liam always avoided talking about his dad. He was the school janitor, mopping floors while kids laughed behind his back. Liam hated it. Then one evening, rummaging through an old box, he found a faded newspaper. Front page, "War hero saves 12 soldiers under fire." The name, John Matthews, his father. Stunned, Liam asked his mum. She said softly, "Your dad gave up medals and fame to be with you every day." That night, Liam stared at his dad's work boots, now symbols of quiet strength. The next day at school, he walked up to his friends and said, "Yeah, my dad's the janitor, and a damn hero too. Never be ashamed of humble greatness. It's the rarest kind." His father passed away, but left behind a letter that changed everything. After his father's funeral, Ethan wandered into the old garage. He sat beside the toolbox they'd used together, dusty, untouched. Inside, he found a folded piece of paper labeled "For my son." It read, "I may not have left you money, but I left you strength, patience, and these hands. Build your life with them." Ethan cried. He had been ready to give up on his dream of becoming a carpenter, but those words brought him back to life. He started small, working on furniture late at night, using his dad's old tools. Years later, his handmade pieces were sold across the country. Every piece he built carried his father's initials, carved quietly, just like the letter said. Sometimes the strongest inheritance is belief. They used to laugh at his father's name until he made it legendary. Jason grew up hearing whispers, "That's the mechanic's son." Kids laughed when his overalls had oil stains. They joked about his father fixing cars while theirs drove luxury ones. But Jason wasn't ashamed. He watched his dad work with pride and grit. He studied engineering, worked nights, and built his own startup from scratch. Years later, his company designed engines for the same luxury brands. At the launch event, he said proudly, "I learned everything from my first teacher, my father, the mechanic." The crowd stood in silence, then erupted in applause. His father, in the front row, wiped away tears. "Don't run from your roots, grow from them." His father made a promise on his deathbed. The son never forgot. As a child, Lucas saw his father work 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. One night in the hospital, his father, weak and fading, whispered, "Just promise me one thing. Never give up on your dream, no matter what." Lucas nodded through tears. Years passed. He failed, got rejected, and nearly quit multiple times. But every time he was down, he remembered that whisper. He studied harder, worked longer, and kept going until one day, standing on a graduation stage with honors, he whispered back, "I kept my promise, Dad." Lucas looked up, smiling through tears. A seat in the crowd was empty, but he felt his father there. A father's promise lives on in his son's fight. He thought his dad didn't care until the truth came out. Ethan always wondered why his dad came home so late. Missed dinners, missed birthdays, even missed his graduation. He felt ignored. One night, after an argument, Ethan shouted, "You only care about work!" His father stayed silent. Years later, after his father passed, Ethan found a worn notebook in his dad's drawer. Inside, every page had a date and a single sentence, "Overtime today, saving for Ethan's future." Every missed moment was a silent sacrifice. Ethan broke down holding that notebook. He realized his father wasn't distant. He was devoted. Some fathers show love not through words, but through sacrifice. He ignored the last call and never forgave himself. Liam had just landed his first big job in the city. Busy, ambitious, always on the move. One evening his phone rang. It was Dad. Liam glanced at it. "I'll call him tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. The next morning, a call came from home. His father had passed in his sleep. Liam rushed back, shattered. On the table, next to his dad's bed, was a sticky note. It said, "So proud of you, son. Just wanted to hear your voice one more time." Liam clutched the note with trembling hands. His heart screamed for one more call, one more chance. Don't let success silence the people who made it possible. He never understood his father until he wore his shoes. Ryan always criticized his dad for being slow, quiet, and poor. He wore the same old shoes for years, patched, worn, and dull. Ryan often said, "Why don't you act like other dads?" His father only smiled. "One day you'll know." When his father passed, Ryan found those same shoes in a corner. Out of curiosity, he put them on and noticed something odd, a thick layer inside, made of stitched bills and old receipts. Every layer told a story. Lunch skipped, socks patched, bills delayed, all to buy Ryan books, school fees, dreams. Ryan looked at the shoes and whispered, these weren't just shoes, they were his sacrifices. Tears finally fell. Before judging your father, try walking in his shoes. His father left nothing behind, or so he thought. Jason's father worked 12-hour shifts at a factory. He never bought new clothes, never took a break. All so Jason could study in the city. Jason always wished his father had done more with his life. At the funeral, the lawyer handed Jason an envelope. Inside was a key. Confused, he followed the instructions to a storage unit. Inside, his father's old toolbox, lunchbox, and a dusty safe. He opened it. Inside were decades of savings and a letter. My life was simple, but your dreams, they were everything to me. Jason fell to his knees, holding the letter to his chest. He whispered, "He gave me everything and asked for nothing. Real love is silent sacrifice." He told his father to stay away. Then life hit him hard. Liam grew up embarrassed by his father, a quiet man who sold vegetables on a cart. He hated the smell of the cart, the worn-out clothes, the whispers from classmates. One day, in front of friends, he snapped, "Stop following me! You're not even educated!" His father just nodded and left. Liam moved to the city for university, chasing respect. Years passed. One day, a call came. "Your father passed away." At the village, a box waited for Liam. Inside, a tattered notebook full of savings logs and letters never sent. Every entry ended with, "For Liam's future." Liam collapsed. Beside the cart, now broken and unused, he whispered, "I rejected the man who gave up everything for me." Never be ashamed of the roots that raised you. He showed no tears at the funeral, but one sound broke him completely. Aaron's father, Thomas, was a janitor at the local school. Every day he mopped floors while Aaron studied upstairs. The kids laughed at Aaron. "Your dad cleans toilets." But Thomas never flinched. He'd say, "Work is work, son. Do it with pride." Aaron stayed silent, ashamed. Until years later, after college, he got the call. His father had passed away. At the funeral, Aaron didn't cry, not once. But when he walked past the old school building, he heard a janitor's cart squeak on the floor, just like his dad's. That sound broke him. He fell to his knees, tears finally falling. "He gave me everything. I gave him shame." From that day, Aaron funded scholarships for children of janitors. Never be ashamed of the hands that built you. His father's last words didn't break him. They built him. Ethan's father was a truck driver, quiet, strong, and always tired. Every weekend they sat by the roadside fixing the old truck together. Ethan once asked, "Why do you work?" "So hard, Dad?" His father smiled. "So you won't have to." Then came the accident. One rainy night, Ethan got the call. His father was gone. At the funeral, Ethan opened a folded letter left in the glove box. "Son, if you're reading this, I didn't make it, but you will. Promise me one thing. Never waste your gift." Ethan knew what to do. He picked up his father's wrench and started his own auto engineering firm. On opening day, Ethan placed that letter in a frame. Right under it, he carved the words, "You didn't fail me, Dad. You fueled me." Sometimes, a goodbye becomes the start of greatness. His father's dream was crushed until the son rebuilt it in silence. Jacob grew up watching his father work day and night on a small garage. His dream was to turn it into a real auto shop. But bills, sickness, and time wore him down. Eventually, the garage closed. His father smiled less and talked even less. Jacob never forgot that look in his dad's eyes. So while working a job and studying late into nights, Jacob saved every dollar. He learned everything about business, and one day, without saying a word, he handed his father a key to his brand new auto shop, rebuilt on the same spot. His father stood frozen, tears in his eyes. "You never stopped believing in me," Jacob replied. "You believed in me first." Sometimes the greatest gift is to finish what they started. She asked for books. He came back without his bike. Liam Carter was only 15. He didn't have much, but he loved one thing: his bike. Every evening he'd ride through the hills after working at the repair shop. One day his younger sister came home crying. She couldn't go to school, no books, no supplies. Liam stayed quiet. That night he cleaned his bike one last time. The next morning he sold it and returned home with a school bag full of books. His sister gasped, "But your bike?" He smiled. "You're worth more than 2 wheels." Years later, his sister became a teacher. During her first class, she held up a photo, her brother standing beside the bike. "This is the reason I'm here today. Real love sacrifices silently and never asks for credit." While his friends slept, he was lifting crates with his father. Ryan Brooks was only 14, but his morning started before the sun. At 4 a.m., he helped his father unload fruit at the market. No breakfast, no complaints, just silent teamwork between father and son. His hands were rough, his eyes heavy, but after every shift he rushed to school. Never late, his classmates had no idea. They only saw the quiet boy who never spoke much. What they didn't know? He used his breaks to study. He didn't want to be rich. He just wanted to give his dad a break one day. Years later, Ryan bought his dad a shop. As he handed him the keys, he said, "Now you can sleep in, Dad. I got us here." Hard work in silence. One day speaks loud enough for two. His father was dying, but what he said changed his son's life forever. Ethan sat beside his father's hospital bed, gripping his cold hand. They had always struggled. No savings, no big house, just love and survival. As machines beeped, his father whispered, "Son, I'm sorry I couldn't give you more." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. But his dad continued, "But I gave you my time, my values, and the strength to fight. That's worth more than gold." Those were his last words. Ethan cried for days, but then he woke up and remembered every lesson his dad taught. Work hard, stay kind, never quit, and he didn't. Years later, Ethan became a successful engineer. Every trophy on his shelf, he carved his father's initials into the bottom, so he'd never forget who built his foundation. Legacy isn't money, it's the values you leave behind. While others played after school, he stacked shelves. Jacob Miller was just 13 when his dad lost his job. Bills piled up. His mom took extra shifts, but it wasn't enough. So Jacob started working at a local grocery store every afternoon, stacking boxes, cleaning aisles, earning just enough to buy food and help with rent. His classmates teased him, said he'd always be a stock boy. But Jacob studied every break, reading textbooks behind the counter. The store manager noticed and gave him used SAT prep books. Jacob kept going, tired, stressed, but focused. He aced the exams. Then a letter came. Full scholarship to a top university. Today Jacob runs his own business. But he still visits that little store. Not to work, but to donate scholarships for kids just like him. Sacrifice now, so you never have to struggle again. He didn't need luck, he needed lunch money. Arif was just 10 when his father lost his job. There were days when even one meal was a blessing, but Arif had a dream, to go to school and finish at the top. So every morning he woke up at 5 a.m., helped his mother make pakoras, and sold them near a bus stop. People often ignored him. Some even yelled, but Arif stood there every day, smiling. He earned just enough to buy notebooks and a uniform. Even when tired and hungry, he never missed a class. By age 16, he topped his district in board exams. When asked how he did it, he said, "I studied so I'd never have to sell snacks again, but I'm proud I once did. Hustle in silence, let success make the noise." He didn't beg for help. He built his own way out. Every morning before school, Aman pushed a tiny cart through the neighborhood, selling homemade samosas and lemonade his mother prepared. Classmates teased him. "Vendor boy," they mocked. But Aman smiled. He knew why he was doing it. With every sale, he saved a coin. With every insult, he grew stronger. He studied under street lamps when power went out. He aced every test, not just with books, but with hunger for change. One teacher noticed his scores and nominated him for a full scholarship. Years later, Aman returned to his old school, not as a student, but as a guest speaker. And outside the gates, his mother's cart still stood, now with a big sign, Amon's first classroom. Success doesn't come from where you start, but from how far you're willing to go. He was only 12, but already the man of the house. After his father passed away, Raju didn't cry. He acted. With no money for school, he borrowed 500 from a neighbor, bought snacks in bulk, and set up a small stall outside his school. While other kids played, Raju sold chips, candies, and juice every day after class. He'd study late at night, tired but determined. Teachers noticed his efforts and gave him free books. Some customers paid extra just to support his dream. Every rupee he made, he saved, because college wasn't a wish, it was a mission. Years later, that same boy graduated with honors, not just from school, but from struggle. And today, he owns a chain of stores named Raju Snacks to remind him of where it all began. Tough times don't last, tough hearts do. Why did the son stare at the scar on his father's hand every night before sleeping? As a boy, Amon hated that his father never came to school events. He was embarrassed by the burn scar on his father's hand, rough, discolored, and impossible to hide. Kids would whisper. He avoided talking about it. One day, in frustration, he shouted, "Why don't you just stay home?" His father smiled faintly and stayed quiet. Years later, Amon found an old newspaper clipping while cleaning. Local man risks life to save child from house fire. It was dated the night their old home had burned down. He ran to his mother. "That scar? It's from saving you." "Oh man, you were just 3. Tears filled his eyes. He had spent years hiding from the very hand that once pulled him from the flames. That night he kissed the scar and whispered, "I'm sorry, Dad. Some scars are not wounds. They're proof of love." Why did the boy keep wearing shoes that didn't fit? Every morning, Daniel laced up shoes 2 sizes too big. They flopped as he walked, but he never complained. One day a teacher asked, "Why not get your size?" He smiled softly. "These were my dad's. He wore them every day to work." His father had passed away working double shifts to support them. Daniel wore those shoes not for comfort, but courage. He said, "When they feel heavy, I remember the steps he took, so mine would be lighter." And day by day, he grew into them, not just in size, but in strength. Sometimes we walk in the shadows of giants until we grow into their footsteps. Why did a grown man frame a half-finished drawing from 2nd grade? As a child, Liam loved to draw. He once started a picture of a rocket ship, but never finished it. His father, a factory worker, found the sketch on the table with the words, "One day I'll fly high." He tucked it away. Years passed. Liam struggled through school, part-time jobs, rejections. But every time he wanted to give up, his father would quietly place that unfinished drawing in front of him. No words, just the sketch. Until one day, Liam became an aerospace engineer. He returned home and saw the same drawing, now framed, hanging in his father's living room. His dad looked at him and said, "You finished it, son, not with a pencil, but with your life. Some dreams take years to draw, but the right support never fades." Why did the son keep an old unopened toy on his shelf for 20 years? As a child, Liam always wanted a remote control car. One day, his father brought one home, but told him, "Not now, son. We'll open it together when I'm back." His father, a soldier, left for duty the next morning. Liam waited. Days turned into weeks, months into years. The toy stayed sealed on his shelf, untouched. Everyone said to open it, move on. But Liam couldn't. It wasn't just a toy, it was a promise. At 25, Liam joined the military. On his first night in barracks, he unpacked the same box, still sealed. He whispered, "I'll open it with you when we meet again." Some promises outlive time, because love never leaves. Why did the father always wear gloves, even in summer? Growing up, Leo never saw his dad without gloves. At the dinner table, at school meetings, even on the hottest days, the gloves stayed on. As a kid, Leo thought it was weird. He once asked, "Why do you always hide your hands?" His father simply smiled and said, "They're just old hands, son." Years later, as Leo was packing for college, he found the gloves in a drawer. Curious, he looked inside and froze. Deep burn scars covered the palms. His mother, quietly, said, "When our house caught fire, you were trapped inside. Your father ran in with bare hands to save you. That's why he always wore gloves, to hide the pain." Leo broke down, realizing the hands that raised him were the hands that once burned to protect him. Some scars are worn with pride because they saved someone else. Why did the son keep a pair of worn-out shoes beside his trophies? Ethan grew up watching his father come home late. Mud on his boots, sweat on his shirt. A construction worker with rough hands and quiet pride. When Ethan won his first award, at school his dad clapped the loudest but stood in the back. As Ethan grew older, he chased success relentlessly, scholarships, medals, promotions, but his father never asked for anything except, "Don't forget where you came from." One day, Ethan found his dad's shoes in the closet, cracked, dusty, worn from years of sacrifice. He placed them beside his shining trophies, because no matter how far he'd come, he knew he was walking on the path his father had built. Step by step, some shoes may look old, but they carried dreams further than you can imagine. Why did he miss the most important day of my life? When I graduated, I searched the crowd, hoping to spot my father, but he wasn't there. I walked the stage alone. My heart felt heavy. Later that night, I came home angry. "How could you not show up?" I yelled. He stayed silent, then handed me a crumpled envelope. Inside was a receipt for my college tuition, fully paid. He had picked up a second job and worked double shifts, just to make sure I could walk that stage without debt. He missed the moment, so I could have a future. That night I realized, some sacrifices go unseen, but they shape everything. Some fathers miss the celebration, to build the reason for it. Why did a father keep a brand new pair of shoes, untouched for years? Every birthday, Ethan's father gifted him something small, a book, a toy, a letter. But when Ethan turned 18, he found something different. A box, untouched, dusty. Inside, a pair of pristine running shoes. Confused, he asked, "Dad, whose are these?" His father smiled quietly. "They were meant for me when I thought I'd run marathons." Ethan asked, "So why didn't you?" His father paused. "I traded those miles for your future. I worked double shifts so you could walk your own path." Years later, Ethan wore those same shoes, not to run a race, but to walk his father's ashes to the riverbank. He whispered, "Every step I take, you gave me. Some dreams are sacrificed, so yours can run free." Why did the son cry when he opened an old rusty toolbox? As a child, Ray often watched his father fix broken things, radios, chairs, even neighbors' fences. His dad's hands were always covered in grease, his shirt soaked in sweat. But he never complained. Ray, on the other hand, dreamed of a cleaner life, a white-collar job, a corner office. He avoided the tools, the dust, the calloused hands. Years later, after his father passed away, Ray returned home to clean out. The garage. There, untouched, was the old metal toolbox, dented, rusty, and heavy with memories. He opened it and found a letter inside. It read, "These tools fed you, clothed you, and kept you warm. You may never use them, but they built the man you became." Tears welled up in Ray's eyes as he realized it wasn't the office job that made him successful. It was his father's silent labor that laid every brick of his future. Not all builders wear suits. Some wear silence and sacrifice. Why did the father walk out of the restaurant without eating a bite? A young boy and his father went to a fancy restaurant to celebrate the boy's first job. The boy ordered freely: steak, dessert, drinks. But when the bill came, he smiled and said, "I got this." He reached into his wallet and froze. He had forgotten his card. Embarrassed, he looked at his father. But the old man was already standing up, slowly walking out. Confused and panicked, the boy followed him outside. The father handed him the card and said, "Today, I let you feel what it's like to come up short. Not to shame you, but so you'll never leave home without being ready. Some lessons are served cold, so your future stays warm." Why did a father leave a pair of tiny shoes at his workplace locker every day for 20 years? Every evening, Mr. Harris, a janitor, opened his locker and looked at a pair of worn-out baby shoes. His co-workers always wondered but never asked. One day, a young intern got curious and finally asked him, "Sir, why those shoes?" Mr. Harris smiled gently. "They belonged to my son. I missed his first steps because I was working 3 jobs to feed him. Every day I open this locker, I remind myself why I keep going." That intern grew up, became a CEO, and kept a photo of those shoes on his desk, because a man who had nothing taught me the value of everything. True love leaves footprints in silence and shoes full of purpose. Why did the father quietly leave a toy car on his son's desk every birthday, even after they stopped talking? Ryan and his father had a falling out when Ryan turned 17. Words were said, painful ones. He moved out, vowing never to come back. But every birthday, like clockwork, a small toy car would appear on his doorstep, the same kind they used to race together when he was little. No notes, no calls, just silence and that toy. 10 years passed. One day, Ryan returned home and found his childhood room untouched. On the desk was this year's car and a letter. "I never knew how to say sorry, so I gave you pieces of our joy instead." Tears ran down Ryan's face as he realized every silent gift was his father's way of reaching out, of loving him without words. Sometimes love speaks loudest in silence. Why did the son keep his father's old, worn-out boots in a glass case? Jake grew up watching his father leave every morning before sunrise. Dirty boots, lunchbox in hand, no complaints. He never understood why his dad worked so hard at a job that barely paid. One day, teenage Jake shouted, "Why don't you just quit and rest?" His father smiled, "So you won't have to." Years later, after his father passed, Jake became a successful businessman. While setting up his new office, he brought one thing from home, a glass case holding those same boots. When asked why, he replied, "Because they walked me here." Every step his father took in silence paved the way for Jake's future. The boots were worn, but the love was everlasting. Some sacrifices aren't spoken, they're walked one step at a time. Why did the father stay up all night without saying a word? It was the night before his son's big exam. The boy was stressed, books scattered, tears in his eyes. "Dad, I can't do it," he whispered. His father didn't lecture. He just sat beside him, quietly. Hours passed. The boy studied, cried, then studied again. Every time he looked up, his dad was still there, eyes open, watching, supporting. No words, no sleep, just presence. The next morning, the boy passed his exam. He looked back and saw his father, eyes red, finally falling asleep in the chair. Years later, when the son became a father himself, his child struggled with homework. He sat beside him, quietly all night. Because now he understood, love doesn't always speak. Sometimes it stays awake. True love doesn't sleep. It stands by, silently strong. Why did he never throw away his father's torn shoes? Every morning, Daniel passed the old shoes by the door, cracked leather, faded laces, completely worn out. His wife once asked, "Why don't you toss them?" He just smiled. not yet. As a kid, those were the shoes that walked miles so Daniel could ride the bus, the shoes that stood in line so Daniel could eat first, the ones soaked in rain while Daniel stayed dry. One night, young Daniel had asked, "Why don't you get new shoes, Dad?" His father replied, "These still carry love." Now, a father himself, Daniel placed the same shoes at his own door to remind his son, real love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet pair of worn-out shoes. True love leaves footprints, even after the feet are gone. Why did the son sleep with an old piece of paper under his pillow for years? When Daniel was 10, he failed a test and came home in tears. His father, usually strict and quiet, said nothing, just handed him a folded note and walked away. The note read, "One failure doesn't define you, but what you do next does." Daniel kept it. Every tough exam, every moment of doubt, he'd unfold it again. He grew up, became a surgeon, and kept that note with him, under his pillow during med school, and even in his locker at the hospital. It was his silent fuel, his secret strength. Years later, his father passed away. At the funeral, Daniel slipped the same note into his father's pocket. He whispered, "You never said much, Dad, but this said it all." Sometimes one quiet act of love can echo through a lifetime. Why did the son keep his father's old, worn-out boots in a glass case? Jake grew up watching his father leave every morning before sunrise. Dirty boots, lunchbox in hand, no complaints. He never understood why his dad worked so hard at a job that barely paid. One day, teenage Jake shouted, "Why don't you just quit and rest?" His father smiled, "So you won't have to." Years later, after his father passed, Jake became a successful businessman. While setting up his new office, he brought one thing from home, a glass case holding those same boots. When asked why, he replied, "Because they walked me here." Every step his father took in silence paved the way for Jake's future. The boots were worn, but the love was everlasting. Some sacrifices aren't spoken, they're walked one step at a time. Why did the father never show his son the letter he kept hidden for years? As a child, Ethan never understood why his father worked late into the night. His father, a man of few words, would always tell him, "One day you'll understand." Years went by, and the silence between them grew. Ethan became a successful entrepreneur, but his relationship with his father remained distant. One evening, after his father passed away, Ethan found an old box hidden in the attic. Inside was a yellowed letter addressed to him. The letter began, "My dear Ethan, if you're reading this, I hope you've found your path. I wanted to be the example, not the voice. Every hour I worked, every sacrifice I made, was for you to have a better life. I never wanted you to feel burdened by words, only by your own strength." Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he read the final lines. "I never showed you the letter because I wanted you to hear it through your heart, not mine." Ethan knelt beside his father's old desk, overwhelmed with gratitude. The silent love his father had shown him was now clear. It wasn't about the words, but the actions that built a future. Sometimes, the strongest messages are unspoken, and the deepest love is shown in silence. Why did the father leave his son one last gift after he passed away? As a young boy, Michael never understood his father's quiet ways. He never spoke much, always working hard, building things in the garage, teaching Michael the value of hard work, discipline, and responsibility. But there were no grand speeches, no long hugs, just lessons in silence. Michael's father passed away suddenly when he was 18. The funeral was filled with silent grief, but no words from his father lingered in his mind. Years later, after becoming a successful architect, Michael found an old dusty toolbox in the attic, his father's. Inside was a simple letter. "Everything I built with love, so you would understand that what you create has purpose. You are my greatest creation. Remember, don't just build buildings, build lives." Tears fell as Michael read the last line, realizing that his father's silence had spoken volumes. He understood, finally, that his father had given him everything. His love, his time, his patience, all through quiet actions. Sometimes a father's silence speaks louder than words. What he gives you is the foundation for your future. Why did his father never say, "I love you"? As a child, Alex always wondered why his father never expressed his love in words. His father was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He would wake up at dawn, work long hours, and never complain. He always made sure Alex had everything he needed, from a new pair of shoes to help with his homework. But he never said the words, "I love you." Growing up, Alex couldn't help but feel a void. He yearned for those words. But his father's silence puzzled him. "Doesn't he love me?" Alex often thought. One day, as an adult, Alex received a call. His father was sick. He rushed to his father's side, unsure of what to expect. When he entered the hospital room, his father smiled weakly and handed him a small, worn-out notebook. "I didn't say much, son, but I wrote it all down here, my love, my pride in you, every single day." Alex sat down, flipping through the pages, each entry a testament to the sacrifices his father made, the pride he had, and the silent love that had shaped Alex's life. Alex's eyes filled with tears as he realized the depth of his father's love. His father may not have said the words, but every action, every gesture had been an unspoken promise of love. His father had given him everything, in silence. Sometimes love is not in the words we speak, but in the silent sacrifices we make. Why did he keep the old baseball glove in the attic for all these years? Mark never understood why his father, a tough and silent man, always had a soft spot for the old, worn-out baseball glove. Every time Mark asked, his dad would just say, "You'll understand one day." Years passed, and Mark, frustrated with his father's silence, drifted away. He became successful in his career, yet something always felt incomplete. One day, after his father's passing, Mark went to clear out the attic. There, under a pile of old things, he found the glove, tucked into a box labeled "For Mark." He opened it, and inside a note from his father read, "This glove has caught every dream I had for you. I gave it to you because I wanted you to catch what's truly important." Tears welled up as Mark held the glove, realizing his father's sacrifice and love. The old glove wasn't just about baseball. It was about the dreams he passed on quietly, hoping Mark would one day catch them. Sometimes love isn't loud. It's silent in the things we don't understand. Why did the son frame an old torn wallet instead of throwing it away? Every morning, Adam watched his father leave before sunrise. Dusty boots, tired eyes, and a quiet determination. He worked multiple jobs, never once complaining. One harsh winter, Adam needed a school uniform. His father skipped meals, picked up extra shifts, and finally managed to buy it. Adam didn't know the cost, not until years later. When Adam grew up, graduated, and found success, he moved his father into a better home. While cleaning, he found his father's wallet, torn, nearly empty, holding only a worn family photo and a faded receipt for the school uniform. That night, Adam framed the wallet and hung it on his office wall. Not for display, but as a tribute. Every scar on that leather told a story of silent love and sacrifice. Some wallets carry more than money. They carry the weight of love. Why did the father always sit on the same park bench every Sunday alone? As a boy, Sam never understood why his father pushed him so hard. "Study, work, focus," his dad repeated daily. Sam thought he was cold, emotionless. They fought often, until Sam left for college and never came back. Years passed. One day, he received a letter. "If you ever want to know why, Meet me at the old park bench." He hesitated, but went. All he found was an envelope taped under the bench. Inside, "I gave you my silence so you'd grow strong in noise. I gave you my back so you could stand tall." Tears fell as Sam read the last line. "I never missed a Sunday hoping you'd come. I'm proud of you, son." His father had passed, away the week before. Some fathers don't say much, but they give everything. Why did a boy faint at school and smile when he woke up? Ravi was known for his quiet nature. Every day at school he said he wasn't hungry, offering excuses. His classmates never saw him eat lunch. One afternoon he collapsed during class. When he woke up in the nurse's room, he smiled weakly. Clutched in his hand was a small lunchbox, half bread, some rice. His sister had run all the way from her school to deliver it. She skipped her own lunch again, just to make sure he ate. That day his teacher asked, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Ravi replied, "Because she was already giving up so much." A bond like that needs no words, only quiet love and sacrifice. Some heroes don't wear capes, they carry lunchboxes. Why did the boy never throw away his broken toy car? A young boy clutched an old broken toy car in his hand every night. His classmates laughed, "Get a new one," but he just smiled. That toy was a gift from his sister. She bought it. With the money she earned washing dishes at a cafe after school, they were poor. One day she slipped the toy into his hands and said, "This is more than a toy, it's a promise. One day we'll ride real ones." Years passed. His room filled with trophies, his garage with real cars. But the broken toy still sat on his desk, because to him it wasn't broken. It was a reminder of her sacrifices, her love, and a childhood built on dreams they refused to let go. Some gifts aren't things. They're the reason you never give up. Why did the brother show up barefoot to his sister's award ceremony? Maya had worked hard for years, studying under a flickering bulb, helping their sick mother, and still topping every class. The big day arrived, her final year award ceremony. She was nervous but hopeful. When her name was called, the crowd clapped, but her eyes searched only for her younger brother. He stood near the gate, smiling, barefoot. She was shocked. Later that night, she asked, "Where are your shoes?" He shrugged. Then she noticed her polished school shoes on his feet. He had sold his only pair to fix hers. "I didn't want you to trip on your big day," he said. Tears welled up in her eyes, because in his silence was sacrifice. In his small act was love beyond words. Sometimes the quietest hearts carry the loudest love. Why did she stop walking just before the accident? Ravi was running late for school. As always, his sister Nia walked beside him, holding his hand tightly. They joked, argued like every other day. As they crossed the road, a truck sped around the corner. Ravi froze. Nia didn't. In a split second, she pushed him out of the way. The truck missed him, but not her. He screamed her name, but she just smiled faintly from the ground. "It's okay. You're safe." Years passed. Ravi became a traffic officer. Every morning he helped kids cross the street safely. On his arm, a bracelet with her name, because every child he saved was one more thank you to her. Some angels don't fly, they walk beside you until their last step. Why did a soldier carry a broken bracelet into battle? A young boy grew up with his older sister always defending him, from bullies, from fear, from failure. She'd tie a friendship bracelet on his wrist before every school exam, whispering, "You got this." When she turned 18, she joined the army. Before leaving, she tied one last bracelet on his wrist and said, "Stay brave for me." Years passed. She never came back, but he never took off the bracelet, faded, torn, but full of her strength. He studied hard, built a life, and eventually stood on a podium as a motivational speaker. And on his wrist, that same old bracelet. He raised his wrist to the crowd and said, "My sister gave me courage when I had none. This bracelet isn't broken. It's a symbol that love outlives fear. Some bonds are stronger than time and braver than war." Why did the mother cry when her son folded an old blanket? Every winter, little Saad and his mother shared a single worn-out blanket. She always wrapped it around him at night, shivering quietly beside him. One evening, Saad said, "Mom, you should take the blanket tonight. I'm okay." She smiled and shook her head. Mothers don't feel cold when their child is warm. Years passed. Saad grew up, moved out, and became a successful engineer. One winter, he visited her. The house was the same, cold, quiet, but filled with love. That night, as she fell asleep, he took the old blanket from the cupboard and gently tucked it around her. She woke up, saw the familiar blanket, and burst into tears. Because for the first time, her son had become her warmth, just like she once was his. Love repays love, in silence, in warmth, and in time. Why did a mother spend her last coin on a pen? Aman was a poor student with big dreams. One day he told his mother, "I need a pen for tomorrow's exam." She nodded, smiled, and left. Hours passed. She returned, tired, holding a cheap plastic pen. He didn't know. She'd sold the only ring her husband left behind, just so her son could write his future. Years later, Arman stood on stage receiving a national award. Tears rolled down as he held up the same pen, now framed. "In glass," he whispered, "this was bought with love and sacrifice. Behind every success is someone who gave everything in silence." Why was a homeless boy covering his mother with a torn blanket? At just 12 years old, Sam lived with his mother on a city bench. Every night he'd fold their one torn blanket and gently wrap it around her shoulders. He always slept cold, but never complained. One night a stranger watched as Sam shivered, but smiled, whispering, "At least she's warm." That man was a reporter. The next morning their story was on the front page. Donations poured in. Years later, Sam built a shelter for homeless families. At the entrance hung the same torn blanket, framed, a reminder, love is sacrifice, even when you have nothing. You don't need much to give everything. Why did he keep an old, torn pair of shoes in a glass case? When Sam was a child, he once pointed at a pair of shiny black school shoes in a store. His mother smiled, but said nothing. That winter, he wore the same torn shoes with holes. In the front, every night, she rubbed his feet warm with her hands. Years later, while cleaning out old boxes, he found a crumpled receipt. Dated the same day he saw those shoes, but it was for food, not footwear. She had chosen hunger and cold just to feed him. Now, a successful businessman, Sam keeps those torn shoes in a glass case, because they remind him of the warmth of a love that walked barefoot for him. Some sacrifices aren't spoken, they're worn. Why did he keep a small dusty box under his bed for 20 years? Every birthday, his mom gave him something small. Socks, a book, a note. But on his 10th birthday, she gave him a tiny box and whispered, "Open this only when you truly need it." He tucked it away under his bed. Years passed. College, job, struggles, heartbreak. Each time he reached for the box, he stopped. Maybe this wasn't the moment. Until the day he stood by her hospital bed, heartbroken. That night he opened the box. Inside was a note. "I believe in you, always, even when I'm not there." And below it, a photo of the two of them, smiling. That night he cried. And then he rose. Sometimes the real gift is knowing someone always believed in you. Why did he carry an old phone with no signal everywhere he went? After his mother passed, Sam kept her old phone in his bag. Friends mocked him. "You know it's dead, right?" He just smiled. Every night he sat alone, opened the phone, and played her last voicemail. "You're stronger than you think. I'm proud of you." That one message lit his darkest nights. When he failed an exam, when he lost a job, when he almost gave up. Her voice reminded him to rise again. Today, Sam's a successful speaker. He still carries the phone. Not for tech, but for strength, because sometimes a mother's words outlive her breath. Her voice faded, but her strength echoed forever. Why did the boy wear shoes twice his size every single day? Arman walked to school daily, his shoes worn and way too big. His classmates laughed, but he stayed quiet. One day, his teacher asked, "Why don't you wear your size?" He looked down, hesitated, then said, "They were my dad's. He passed away last year. I wear them to feel like he's walking with me." Silence filled the room. No one laughed again. Years later, Arman became a coach. He donated shoes to kids in need with a note in each: "Walk proud. Someone's love is in every step you take." Some shoes carry more than feet. They carry love. Have you ever wondered what it takes to follow your dreams when the world tells you it's impossible? For years, Mia dreamed of becoming a dancer. Every day after school, she practiced in the small living room of their apartment, her feet hurting from the rough floor, her muscles aching from endless practice. Her family, struggling financially, couldn't afford dance classes, but that didn't stop her. She would use YouTube videos to teach herself and dance in the silence of her room, determined to make it. One day, her mother came home exhausted from a long shift, and Mia, seeing her mother's tired face, promised herself she would one day make it big. She would make her mother proud, but deep down, Mia knew the world wasn't kind to dreamers. It would take everything she had to get there. Years later, Mia finally got the call. She had been selected to perform at a major international competition. She could hardly believe it. But before leaving, she knelt beside her mother, now older, and whispered, "This is for you, Mom. We did it." Her mother, with tears in her eyes, kissed her forehead and said, "You're the dream I never thought I could have." The price of dreams is sacrifice, but the reward is worth it. Why did the son cry when he saw an old broken watch in a drawer? Every night, Liam's mum worked 2 jobs. She never missed his school meetings, never complained. On his 10th birthday, she gave him a simple watch, cheap, scratched, second-hand, but to Liam it was gold. He wore it every day until he grew out of it. Years later, as a grown man packing up her old home, he found the watch again, and hidden inside, a note. "This cost me a week's meals, but your time is worth it." He broke down. That broken watch reminded him. His mother didn't give him things. She gave him everything. Behind every small gift from a mother is a sacrifice we may never understand. Do you ever feel like you're not good enough, like you're always falling short? Tommy always dreamed of becoming a writer. Every night he would stay up late, pouring his thoughts into notebooks, but self-doubt always crept in. "You're not good enough," he'd hear in his head. "Who will care about your words?" One day, after another rejection letter, he felt like giving up. But then something shifted. Instead of quitting, Tommy decided to just write. No worries about perfection, no fear of rejection, just words.